In this tutorial, I'll show you how to create a double exposure effect in Photoshop CS5. Double exposure is very popular at the moment, with lots of artists and photographers and graphic designers choosing to use it as their technique to design album covers and magazine covers. This is the kind of effect that we're going to create today. You're going to need a photograph of a person with a neutral background and a photograph of a landscape as well. This tutorial is taken from a fantastic website, Photo Tutorials Plus. There's loads of demonstrations and tutorials for you to learn how to create different photographic effects with. So I've just typed in double exposure onto the website here, and you can see there's loads of different options for me to try loads of different ways of the same technique. The one that I'm choosing is the first one. It's by Yulia Sokolova. If you want to follow the tutorial exactly, you'll need to download the two photographs that I showed you before. You can do this on the tutorial website. Otherwise, you can use your own photographs as long as you have your own neutral background portrait photograph and a detailed landscape image. And it can be a building, it can be trees, it can be, you know, even textures on the ground, that kind of thing. So here I'm downloading the landscape photograph, and I'm just going to go down and click on the download button so that it will be available for me to use as well. Okay, so I'm copying this tutorial, which I found on phototutorialsplus.com, exactly as it is on paper. So if you want to do that as well, then you're going to need to download those two images that I showed you from that tutorial online. Otherwise, you can use your own portrait photograph, which is going to need to have its own neutral background, and your own landscape photograph. So it could be quite a textural photograph, it could be, you know, as long as it's got some nice contrast in it and some nice detail in it, then that's absolutely fine. And I would recommend doing that because then you're going to end up with your own personalised piece of artwork as well. So, step one. Now, before you start step one, you're going to need to open your photographs. So, I've got Photoshop open on the screen here, so I need to go on to File, Open. Mine are on downloads, so just open those. There's one. So I've got my two images open now. You're going to want to use the portrait photograph first, and step one is all about cropping. So you'll find the cropping tool on the left hand side of the screen. It's just here. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to make sure that the crop tool is selected. Okay, just highlight the area that you want to keep. You see the little marching ants around the edge, and the area that you want is going to stay highlighted, and just press enter and it will get rid of those edges. Okay, so that's step one, nice and easy. Step two is you want to go to image adjustments and levels. Okay, so you've got these bars here that you can change the levels of your photograph here, and that's going to change the contrasts and things like that, the highlights, the lowlights and the medium tones. But I'm going to change them manually or precisely by typing in the numbers into these bits here. So the tutorial tells me to enter 7, 1.15 and 197. So I've done that and I'm going to click OK. So now we're on to step 3. You're going to need the spot healing brush tool, which is again on the left hand side on the tools panel. It might be really visible, it might be there, or it might be the patch tool, the red eye tool, or the healing brush tool. You want the spot healing tool, so I've got that selected. And we need that because we want to get rid of this little mark on the guy's ear. So I'm just going to draw over it. I'm going to click and hold and pull the mouse over that area, and then I'm going to let go, and voila, like magic, his ear hole has disappeared. Okay, so now we're on to step 4. You're going to need the magic wand tool. The magic wand tool is again on the left hand side tools panel. So you can select the magic wand tool. Then you're going to click on any area in the background. This is why you want a neutral background. So click on the background, and that's going to highlight the whole background with the marching ants tool. We want to highlight the person's face. So in order to do that, we're going to go to select inverse, and that's going to select inverse his face. So now we've got him selected. What we need to do on step 5 is refine the edge. So we're going to go up to this little bit up here on the top bar and refine edge. So we're going to okay, so you should have your radius at 1.5, and you're going to need your output to new layer with mask. Okay, so that should create this new layer here with this extra little bit, which is your layer mask. Okay, so that's what you really need to do. So the next thing that you're going to do is you can continue to play with the layer mask if you want to, but we're going to just go and make a new layer. So in order to make a new layer, you go to layer at the top panel, new layer. Nice and easy. You don't need to rename it. You can if you want to, and you think it's going to help you remember which one it is, but I don't tend to name my layers. So I just click OK. And I'm going to go down to this bit at the bottom here, and I'm going to double click on the colour bit so I can pick my colours. So that's at the bottom left of the tool panel. Okay, so I'm going to enter in this number here. So to this section, I'll type it in again. It's DCD BD9. And that's going to give you a kind of a neutral grey colour. Okay, so you click OK. Then you go to the tool panel and you click your paint bucket tool, and you're going to fill that whole layer with that colour. So you just click, and there is your layer. It's filled in with this grey colour. So go to the layers panel, which is on the right hand of the screen, and select the portrait layer with the clipping mask and drag that up above that grey layer. So you've got something that looks a little bit like that now. Okay, so that's the end of section 1 of the tutorial. So you're well on your way with that now. So we're going to go and select this other image here. So as you can see, I've got this image open here. I want to open this image up here. So I'm going to click on that, and there is the landscape image. So I need to free this image up so I can move it, because at the moment if I click on the move tool on the left hand panel, I can't move this at the moment. It's just stuck. The layer is locked. So I need to unlock that layer. In order to do that, have a look at the layers panel on the right hand of your screen. You'll see there's a little padlock at the side of that layer. So all you need to do to unlock it is double click. This little layers box appears. You can click OK. And now, like magic, you can move this layer. So I'm going to click on the layer. I'm going to drag it up to the other picture. You can just ignore that because that doesn't matter. Okay, so now that we've got this first image or the second image on the first image, now we can make it, it's going to get a little bit more interesting. So what I want you to do is I want you to make sure that this layer 2 is selected, so the layer with the landscape image on it. Then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to click with the control key whilst clicking on this layer mask. Okay, so I haven't done it yet. So hold down the control key and click the layer mask on the portrait section. And what that's going to do is it's going to create these little marching ants that you see in the shape of the man's face. So then what you need to do is you need to go down to the layers panel and you need to click on add layer mask. Okay, so do you see that's brought the background from the underneath picture onto this picture on top. Okay. So something you can do now, if you're not very happy with the part of the background or the part of the landscape that you can see through this, you can actually unlink the two layers. You can unlink the layers from their masks. So I'm just going to unlink the landscapes up, and what you can do is you can make sure that the landscape is the bit that's selected and not the layer mask. So there we go, now it's going to work. So you unlink the landscapes and you can move this landscape around when it's selected. Okay, so something that I would like to do actually, as I'd like to sort of change the size of it. So I'm gonna go to edit, I'm gonna go to transform and scale. I can use these bits at the side to sort of change the scale. I'm not going to change the scale a lot because I still quite like it being larger than the portrait picture. I also want to rotate it because on the original tutorial she'd rotated it, so I'm going to go to edit, transform, rotate, and I'm not really thinking about this when I'm doing this because I'm just literally copying from what's been done before, but you might want to have it so your trees are going upright like that, but I'm not. She had hers upside down, so I'm going to copy her. And you can have a think about this, think about your composition and what do you think is going to work best. This is probably quite a crucial part. Okay, so I think I want to change the size again. So I'm going to, won't let me change the size while I'm doing that. So again, I'm going to edit, transform, scale, and I'm going to make it a bit bigger, a bit more like that. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. I'll leave it, and so I'm going to press enter, and that just moves that like that. So now we've completed step 3, so we're on to step 4 of section 2. The next thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you select the portrait layer, and you're going to desaturate this layer. So I'm going to go to image, adjustments, and I'm going to desaturate it. Okay, so that's going to make it black and white. I'm also going to drag this layer up above the landscape layer. So I'm going to click and hold and drag it up above it, like that. So now you'll have something that looks a little bit like this for now. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to play with the levels. So I want to go to image, adjustments, levels, and you can change the sliders if you want, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the number that I want to change. So here I'm just going to type in 117 like it says on the tutorial, and that's just going to change the saturation or the contrast. Actually the contrast is changing, so you've got much darker tones in there. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to go back to image adjustments, but this time you're going to go to hue and saturation. So you need to type in 212. First thing that you need to do is you need to click colorize, and then you'll be able to type in 212, 10, and that's done. So first step is to click colorize, the second step is to type 212 into hue, saturation should be 10, and just leave lightness. So then you can click OK, and that's that bit done. Now we're up to step 6. So you're going to right click on the portrait layer and the layer mask. So that's going to give you this little drop down menu, and you're going to click on apply layer mask. So that's going to change it a little bit. It's going to sort of merge those two layers. Then you're going to go down to the drop down menu at the top. So you're going to change the blending mode to screen, and that's going to do something very interesting. It's going to make those two images, those two layers that are next to each other, sort of merge together. Okay, so you can already see that the double exposure effect is starting to happen now. So we're up to step 7. So what you need to do is you need to get the brush tool in the left hand side. That keeps popping up, just ignore that. So you select your brush tool, and you're going to need a soft brush tool, so don't go for a hard brush tool like this, go for one that's got like a nice soft edge. And I've gone for a size that's about 200 or I don't know, 300 pixels. It's quite a big brush I've gone for. Okay, so you need to make sure that the right layer is selected, and the layer that you want to be selected at this point is this one. It's the landscape layer, and it's not the mask, it's the main part of it. So you just click on that bit there. Ooh, don't double click, okay, like that. Yep, so just single click on that layer, and then all you're going to do is you're going to use your brush tool to get rid of anything that sort of shows the top of his head. So it just makes it a little bit more surreal, a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to change the size of my brush a little bit, make it a bit smaller so I can be a bit more detailed. With that, I'm going to move to the next step, which is step 8. So we're going to create a new layer. So you go to the layers panel, the layer drop down menu at the top, and new layer. I'm not going to name it, just click OK. So that's going to create a layer here. So I'm still going to use the brush tool, but I'm going to use a different colour for the brush tool now. So I'm going to double click on this colour at the bottom left of the screen, and into this bit here, the number, I'm going to type in 2F2C35, and that's going to give me quite a dark blue colour. And I'm going to click OK. So I want to make sure that the right layer is selected here. So I've got this layer, yep, want layer 3 to be selected, and I'm going to draw over any areas, any features of the face that I want to keep. But oh, that's something that I don't want to happen. I've started drawing on the background, so I'll just go edit, undo, and in order to stop that from happening, I'm going to hover over this layer here, the mask of the landscape, and I'm going to press Control and click on that, and that's going to give me those marching ants that we had earlier before. So now when I try and fill these areas in, I can't draw on the background. So as I was saying, I'm just going to paint over any areas that I want to be defined, so any features of the face that I want to just be without the landscape background. Okay, so I want to get rid of a little bit of the tree detail in the hair. I want the focus to be on his features at this point. And then maybe just under the nose as well, I quite like that it's starting to sort of appear on the lips and things like that, so I think that's where I'm going to leave it for that. I'm quite happy with that. So now we're on to the last step, step 9, and you're going to select the desaturated portrait layer, this one at the top here. There we go. And you are going to go down to add a layer mask or a vector mask. They're both the same thing, and you just click on that, and that's going to create a layer mask here. And you're going to take the brush tool, so that should I've still got the brush tool, but you know where it is, it's just on the left hand toolbar side if you've lost it. And you want to switch the fill colour to black. Okay, so you can do that by clicking on these little bits down here and making sure that it's going to be in black, your paintbrush. Okay, I'm going to, I think I don't need to worry about the background too much. So anywhere where you draw here, it's going to get rid of the man's features. So we're going to be focusing on the neck area, and we're going to make it a little bit more defined for the trees, if that makes more sense. You'll see what I mean as we do it. So I'm just going to make my brush size a bit bigger. And I'm just going to start getting rid of any of these details of the shirt. So I'm going to leave that little edge there. This is up to you how you do it. This is just where you can be a bit experimental and see what do you want your final piece to look like. It's better to sort of take less away at the start, and then you can take more away later. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave his features here. I'm quite happy with that, and I like the top of his head as well. So I think that's how I'm going to leave it. I'm really happy with that. So following the tutorial, that's what I've ended up with. So I'm going to save that now. I'm going to click File, Save As. I'm going to call it, what shall I call it? Double Exposure. And I've already got some things called double exposure, so I'm going to call it double exposure 4. It's going to be a Photoshop file. I always save everything as a Photoshop file first, just in case I want to edit it again, and then I save it again. So I go to File, Save As, and I save it under the same name, but as a JPEG file as well. So I always have 2 versions of everything. Okay, so make sure that you save your final piece, so you can show everyone what you've done. Well done!